Shalom, Kohala, Yahweh Shem Shai Bashem Kakadash. The honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers that are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the confusion of face brothers joined unto our ranks, the hopefully elect, the aquaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm coming at you with another lesson. And this is an comedian news report. I don't know what else to call him. I've watched a number of his videos, and he's one of those guys who talks about current events, and he does it in a comedic way, but he tells the truth, like Trevor Noah. But you use any Trevor Noah footage, you're going to get hit with copyright. So the disclaimer is right out the front, right up front. I do not own any of this material. I am not profiting from this. I'm using this simply for educational and informational purposes. All right. But this Jimmy Dore guy, he always has a panel of comedians, and they talk about real current events that are really affecting people, and they put a comedic a twist on it, but they're telling the brutal and harsh truth. All right, so this is that spirit of division, that house divided, Mark 3:25, and also the that I'm going to tell spirit which Esau has, that so that their tongue should fall upon themselves. So a house divided, and then their tongues are falling upon themselves. They're telling on one another. So without any further ado, let's let a little bit of this video play, and then I'm gonna bring out some scriptures.
There was a lot of people in Congress that are upset that the Bush administration and the intelligence, they weren't briefing Congress. But watch what John King says about this.
Okay. But if you listen to some of the other members, the Senate Intelligence Committee, for example, was briefed last week, according to a member of the committee, on some of this intelligence. Members who have security clearances can pick up the phone and call and ask for information.
So members of Congress who have security clearance, or there's lots of, they can just pick up the phone and call them and say, tell me what you know. They can get to do that, and one of them did.
Among those, Senator Angus King of Maine, who's he caucuses with the Democrats, but he's an independent. He's a more measured voice normally on issues like this. He says, yes, there's alarming intelligence, but then he adds this.
I don't think there's faulty intel here necessarily. I think the intel may be accurate, but the unanswered question again is, are they reacting to our assertions of action in the Middle East, or are we reacting to them? I think.
So he's not sure if Iran is reacting to our aggression or if we're reacting to their aggression. He's not sure. Well, let me show you a map, because what the fuck is Iran doing in the middle of all our military bases?
Right. Okay. And the end result of this is the Lord's coming back. And, the Spirit of the Lord is upon these kings of the earth and making them do that. You can see how many bases and military spots that America has that has surrounded Iran or the Persian Medes, as they're called biblically. And this is Isaiah 66:15, and it reads, "For behold, Yahweh will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke be rebuked with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many." You see all those flags? They're all going to be burned and destroyed. And many of the people in Iran are also going to be burned and destroyed. The Lord is going to destroy those armies, man. Thus saith the Bible. All right. For by fire and his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. All right. Where else does it tell you that? It tells you that in Habakkuk. Because why? Because that right there, what you're looking at on the screen, is the valley of Jehoshaphat in the Bible. Properly said, Yahweh Shaphat. All right. And that's in the book of Habakkuk. And the Lord is gathering them there so that he can send his bright and gleaming arrows. Okay? Why? Because they're going to be for booties. Like it says in verse 7. Habakkuk 2 and 7. And it reads, they shall not rise up suddenly, they shall not bite thee, and they shall awake and shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. Well, that's what's going to happen to them. It's going to reverse. All right? Verse 8, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land and the city, and all that dwell therein. All right? Woe unto him that coveteth evil covenants to his house, and that he has set, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. All right? Because Esau's got his nest set on high. He surrounded these people, and his purpose is to get that oil that's in Iran. Same thing's going on in Venezuela. Same damn thing. All right? Okay, because let's go to actually that's in Joel, not Habakkuk. I said Habakkuk because I was turning to it, but the Valley of Jehoshaphat is actually in the book of Joel. Salakia. Right, this is the book of Joel 3 and 2, and it reads, and I will gather all nations and will bring them down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them for my people and for my heritage Israel, which they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So that's another thing. When you're looking at all those nations over there, Israel is right here. Let's use my pen as a pointer. Israel is right here. All right. There's Israelites in Damascus and Lebanon and Syria and all those areas around. We're the biggest race of people on the face of the earth. Israel is scattered into all nations as slaves. Our seed is laid and mixed in, and the Lord is going to receive. That's the parable of the wheat and the tares. The Lord is going to bring all the Israelites out of all the nations they were scattered to, which were all of them. All right. There were places where they came to mainly in groups like America and South America. All right. To the islands. Okay. And when they fled into Africa, they mixed in with all them damn Hamites, which only makes sense because Africa is just below Israel, literally part of the same continent. Because if we go to the pen right here, you go to the you go east of Israel and you're into the North Africa. You go south, you're into North Africa. All right. I'm sorry. You go west. You're gonna make your way toward North Africa, and if you go west and go west and south, that's where you're gonna make your way all the way to places like Niger, Chad, etc. But the Israelites went in every direction, and they're scattered among all people, just as the scripture says, man. So a little bit more of this video play.
What are they doing? They're being aggressive with us. Iran's being aggressive against all our military bases and our aircraft carriers that are in the ocean right off their country. So I didn't hear that, but I will say that's a lot of bases around Iran. And for anybody to think we're doing anything other than provoking them into a war are full of shit. So
I agree, Mr. Jimmy. I agree.
They got a lot of balls setting up shop over our oil. I'm going to tell you that right now. A lot of balls. So here's another thing from Brian Williams, which I think it's just amazing to me that he got in trouble for.
So let's pause it because that one comedian with his wise crack. He said they got a lot of balls setting up over our oil. That's what it's all about. Esau's making claim. He's coveting. He's coveting something. He wants it. And his MO has been, since he's been in power, is to use his blessing, which was a sword, and go and take it. But now we're coming to the end of that, because now the nations are saying, you know, are you become as weak as we? The nations aren't so weak anymore. Okay? That's what's happening. You got another thing that's going to happen too when this happens. You know, when this war finally goes full blown, they're going to start. You're going to start seeing more and more chariots. The chariots are going to come and do damage as well, man. Okay, they're going to come and do damage as well. But let's go to the book of Zechariah 9 and 14, and it reads, and Yahweh shall be seen over them, and his arrows shall go forth as lightning, and Yahweh power shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. So when these missiles are flying, that trumpet is like referring to the seventh trumpet that's blown in the book of Revelation. All right, that's it. So you got arrows flying back and forth across the world. Those are called ICBMs, and you're gonna have the chariots also doing destruction. You know, and also when all that happens, that's also the salvation of the Israelites. That's Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter. They should be troubled when they see it, man. And Yahweh Shah is going to show up on that gigantic chariot. You know, it's as big as a mountain. And he's going to utterly destroy all these armies, man, that try to fight him, because they're going to try to fight him. He's going to put the spirit on them to fight, because they said they were scared, but yet there's fight. Same thing he did to Pharaoh in the ancient Egypt. He's going to do it in the new Egypt, which is also Babylon, which is also Rome, spiritually. Because all those things that were done in those places are done here. And the spirits of all those places is the spirit of this place. They've combined all those things with their witchcraft, and this is how they've been ruling. Okay? So let's go a bit deeper into it. Let's see, right about here.
Not new. And I've showed you this once before, but it's worth showing to you again. This is at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. How to build U.S.-Israeli coordination on preventing an Iranian nuclear breakout. Yeah, so Israel and the United States have to coordinate to keep Iran in check. And this is Patrick Clausen, and watch what he says.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough.
Crisis initiation. That's what they call starting a war.
So he's ratting himself
Crisis
out.
initiation.
Man, this is amazing. That Esau would even allow footage like this to be made. And this dude, Jimmy, is dropping, he's not dropping dimes on him, he's dropping manhole covers, man. You know, he's exposing. But that's that spirit of Psalm 68 and 4. So, that, like he said, this is the way they describe starting a war. Crisis initiation. This is, and they do the same thing in other ways. This is also how you can label someone evil or wicked. All right? You start propaganda and vilifying their name. Same thing that they do to the Hebrew Israelites. What they do to Jake here in America on the news every night. Because it's facts, you know, statistical facts. Most of the crimes are done by Jimmy's people, but most of the faces you see on the news are brown people. And when a brown person gets caught, they show the mugshot is criminal. Then when they show someone that looks like Jimmy, it's clinical.
It's really tough. Meaning starting a war and getting away with it in front of your own people could be tough.
And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran. which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests. Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall he had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode.
Well, it's weird for Jeffrey Dahmer just to admit the way we start every war. Because he looks like just as bloodthirsty as Jeffrey Dahmer, and he looks just like Jeffrey Dahmer. But here he goes. He's got more ways.
We didn't go.
Well, because basically those were all false flag events. People, a lot of you don't really know history, and you don't understand the magnitude of what he just said. But the Tonkin Gulfing, which started the Vietnamese War, which was a bloody, violent, horrible war, was a false flag event, which they completely admitted to, just like 9/11. When you go back to the map in the beginning, there was no U.S. bases surrounding Saudi Arabia. They attacked Iraq, but 14 of the 19 so-called terrorists came from Saudi Arabia. I don't think one of them was actually Iraqi at all. So let's bring that back a little bit.
Into World War II, as David mentioned, you may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall he had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode.
So all those episodes were created by Esau. He did those things. So in the eyes of the people, it legitimized. So it legitimized their actions to go to war, because the people didn't understand that it was a false flag event done by their own government. They just saw the end result, and then people get riled up, and then there it is. Matter of fact, that brings to mind the scripture in Sirach. Let's get that. Sirach 10:8. This scripture comes out almost every. It's crazy. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. All right. So if Esau wants something, he's coveting your land. He's gonna vilify you, demonize you, commit a crime, and say that you did it. Make it look as if you did it to the people, or even don't even make it you look at it. Nowadays they just say you did it with no evidence, no footage, no evidence, nothing, and then that justifies their attack.
Well, it's weird for Jeffrey Dahmer just to admit the way we start every war. Because he looks like just as bloodthirsty as Jeffrey Dahmer, and he looks just like Jeffrey Dahmer. But here he goes. He's got more ways.
We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack. So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war.
So they want someone else to start the war. So after that, we can't do it ourselves directly. It would be better. So how do we start?
And there you go. That's why the Israelis are so aggressive. So America, the least of the flock, is going to draw them out, because America's going to get into it defending Israel. So Israel is more than likely going to do something to cause someone to defend themselves, And as Israel, as they're putting a boot on your neck, as they're putting you in chains, as they're taking your land and your property from you, they're screaming that you're anti-Semite and you have the right, and they have the right to defend themselves, even though they're the aggressors clearly in these cases. And as I'm saying that, his face is in a perfect expression, as I'm saying that, because that's pretty much sums it up.
Start a war. How would somebody else start a war? Let's listen.
One can combine other means of pressure with sanctions. I mentioned that explosion.
This
on
trade
August
war
17th.
is going to lead to
We
World War
could step
III.
up the pressure.
That's another way.
I mean, look, people, Iranian submarines periodically go down. Someday one of them might not come up. Who would know why?
Put this fucking show in the front lines, man. God damn it. Every
Right?
time I see someone like that, it's like, put him out there, shove a gun in his hand.
I want you to
get
go
mowed
take.
down.
I want you to go take this village, Richie Rich.
Yeah, that sounds like that's a mob threat. You know what I mean? That's exactly a mob threat. Oh, Jimmy, it'd be a real shame if you fell down a flight of stairs. You know what I mean, guys? Submarines fall down all the fucking time. You know what I mean? You trip and fall, hit a fucking head, and then it's just a submarine. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a nice country you got there. It'd be a shame if something fucking happened to it.
Yeah,
That's all I'm
it's a
saying.
real shame.
I mean, there's some lovely people in your country. I'd hate to see them get their heads blown off or whatever.
You know, they're making mockery and jokes about it, but it's true. This is Revelation 20 and 13, and it reads, "And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire." This is the second death. The second death is coming. All right? And that second death is going to, so how can hell be cast into the lake of fire if hell is the lake of fire? So for these moronic Christians who still push that lie, all right, hell is a condition. He's saying is the hellish condition that's put on the world by these Edomites is going to be thrown into the lake of fire, which is going to be Babylon burning from getting hit with all those ICBMs that are going to come to it from his own allies and from all over the world. Verse 15, "Whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." So if you have not the mark, if you're not among the Lord's elect, and you're on the soils of America when this all goes down, you're going into the lake of fire. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Abshai Bashem Rakak Wadash Wa Abba Babal.